this was the video that I did this morning for when I was talking about a challenge, and then I had a challenge of my own. Managed to get done in time, and get on the shops. But yeah, so I haven't touched it since I came back in again. So you see, this eye wants to be a little bit of treatment, but it was, in the moment. That was let's put it like that. I'm not going to do any more on it. I'm going to do another one now, and which is a great thing great topic, because I've just been talking to my friend, and we're talking about drawing being we were talking about, I think I mentioned this morning, about grids and tracing and stuff like that, and how people are. I mean, I'm not bothered either way. Trace it, those grids, whatever. Even those silly divider things, use them. I'm not bothered. But for me, if I'm doing it, as I said, it's whatever you do is down to you. But if I'm doing it, I've got to have the the response has to flow, basically. So it has to come to me. I respond to the subject, and how you see it manifest is my response, pure response, not a contrivance or a calculation or a something through a different device or whatever. It's actually from my soul, and if you like, my creative soul onto the paper. That's what it is for me. So every mark is in essence my response, the way I make the marks, which is why I'm quite keen on using the homemade charcoal, because of the line variance. Whereas this one was from the other day with the shop bought stuff. You probably can't see much difference, but I can see a difference between that one and that one. Same paper, but the feel of this one is completely different. It's like the line variance is not consistent. It both in terms of thickness and in weight, the density, and but that for me is how my response manifests. I've said this before about the lie detector thing, when you see every whatever the emotional response is to a question, it affects the way. And I think that's what happens when you draw, that it's so sensitive that it's being transmitted into the tip, and if the tip has ultimately more nuances, more varied and different marks that it can make, because it's either cut oddly, which is what I tend to do, is cut these oddly, so I don't want to point on it, or it's the thing itself, because it flows, it sort of ebbs and flows. It's not consistently dark, one tone, which is what I like about it. Anyway, so this drawing thing, I'm going to draw this guy, by the way. There you go. I'll just try and miss the microphone there. So the everything is drawing thing is it's something that it's I think it's not peculiar to me, because I've heard other people talking about it like this, but I'm everything is drawing, whether you've got a paintbrush in your hand or a piece of charcoal or a pencil. Everything is drawing. And this idea that drawing is separate from the process, if you like, because drawing is seeing, drawing is responding, drawing is everything, and that the idea that it's just the first one of the stages. You draw it, then you color it in. That for me, if I'm trying to say that this is about my human response to another subject, to another human, to the subject, my emotional response, that emotion is going to be interfered with when I'm stopped for a minute to mix the right color in order to stretch the canvas and this, that, and the other. It's going to be interfered with. So the response, unless everything's prepared, I suppose, in the mechanical sense, that sort of thing, when it's just about materials and mediums. But the response aspect of it can't be interfered with for me. It always has to be that response. Now you can. What I said about the other day about people like Sargent and who could produce things over a period of time. His portraits supposedly took 3 months. I imagine some of them took a lot longer than 3 months looking at them. But to be able to sustain that connection and response over a period of time is the greatest skill. Because you know how it's, you know this, how this works. You know, you do that, and then you then sort of work on it, and it evolves. It becomes more of production, and it goes into this kind of finish, and it's sustaining the kind of connection to the subject in order not to lose those initial responsive marks. And in fact, at this stage of the drawing, you still want that response embedded within it. You still want to feel that response, not just a replica of a face. So the drawing thing for me is all those things. It's primarily its response. It's not about technical ability, you know, the sort of the ability to draw accurately and all this. And none of that is important to me, as you probably tell. the idea of accuracy, you know, being a dominant factor is just not in my remit, if you like. I do have the usual kind of sergeant-esque approach, the accuracy, efficiency, and economy thing. So I am in that way, in that frame of mind regarding things like accuracy, but not necessarily accuracy in terms of how you normally consider it. But because of the flow aspect of it, because of the connection and the flow aspect of this, I need it to be a one motion thing. It's the reason why when I paint straight into the thing. You know, I know people call it alla prima and all the rest of it, but call it what you like. I just like it to be, you know, that was just a one painting. It wasn't outlined and then filled in. I just painted it as if I was drawing it. There's no difference. It's just happened to be in colour. And that's that's how it works for me. I don't want it to be a let's sketch it out. I mean, this is the daft thing about it. You know, this thing about I can't draw the same thing twice. But that's not just to do with, you know, my response being pure and everything. It also impacts on the preparation thing. You know, people will draw a face a number of times to get to know the face, but that straight away you can see what's wrong with that, because it's what they're saying is that I need to know the mechanical aspects of it. What you need to do is sit and talk to the person and then draw them while you're talking to them, or at least draw them after you finish talking to them, because that's the only way you're going to know this face, is you can know the person. But that, as I said, it affects my this ability or this requirement to feel, to connect and feel and respond. It affects everything. It means I can't do the preparative drawing thing, which is then traced and coloured in. I can't do that. But as I said, the drawing for me is everything, and I know I'm not alone. But it's rare that people will get what I'm saying, and I don't really come across many people that understand what I'm saying when it's, you know, I know it's peculiar to me. You know, it's fine if I think like that. I'm not saying everybody should think like me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the way I see it is like this. The drawing is everything. So I don't know if you can see what's happening with this, you know, the subtlety of these marks that come out of this charcoal or not, but it is definitely a game changer for me. I think it's mostly because of it may be because I am twitching the thing slightly either way, or you know, one way or the other, and it affects the way that which edge I'm working with, you know, whether it's that or whether it's just the charcoal is, you know, it's you know, the structure of the wood is such that it makes it perform in a certain way. So it's not really, it is a little bit scratchy. In fact, someone commented on the fact that it was you could hear me, you know, making the marks with it. So it is a little bit scratchy, but it's not. It doesn't get in the way. You know, sometimes I've said about if it doesn't flow. This is not a particularly flowing piece. If I wanted proper flow, though, I'd be using the homemade the chalkboard stuff, because it does actually flow really nicely, and I think that's what probably people would be used to working with. But I like the inconsistency of this. I think that's probably because I like to be fully connected to the thing, and if the charcoal is not behaving properly, I tend to be more concentrated, you know, more focused. So that's another reason why I like the charcoal not to be 100% perfect, and also that it makes marks that I don't intend, and that's part of the beauty of it. You know, I think that it's more so because of the homemade stuff. Most of the time, your shopboard stuff is predictable. It's not unpredictable. So. You're going to get a fairly good result with the shortboard stuff. One of the things I would say, though, is that try not to work with something too small. I find that the bigger the charcoal, the more effective the drawing is. I just think it's like it takes away the ability to make accurate marks, you know, fine accurate marks, which you do when you're drawing. So that goes, because look at it, it's a big ugly piece of charcoal, and I like that. It just stops me from drawing, you know, in the traditional way. And the other thing about it is that with the homemade stuff is that it changes its density as I'm working with it. It's changing now, which is weird, because most people are picking up and putting down and all that kind. I never do, and I just work through it. But it's changing its density now. It's getting a lot softer. Like I say, it's one of those things. I kind of, it's what I like about it. So this drawing thing, it talks about when I was the two things that change, you know, finding the anchors and then attaching to the anchors and all that sort of thing, attaching shapes and anchors and things. And in part of that, the other really important part of that, which is something that most people will fall foul of, is calling the things by their name, calling the nose and the ears and everything else by their name. It's just a bunch of shapes and tones. It's not, you know, and they relate to everything else. So this is all about the relationship things. Proportions are, it's just not, you don't think in terms of proportion. You need to think in terms of relationships. It's the same thing, but proportions tends to fall foul of the usual kind of calculations and known quantities, you know. So rather than fall foul of that, it's better just consider them as the relationship between things. And it's not calculated. It's just what, you know, the what you observe, the relationships that you observe. But the other thing is this drawing thing. So if I say, oh, it's a drawing, immediately it becomes a perception of what a drawing is. So and it's assessed accordingly, I think. But like I've just flicked through the one of the folders, one of these 80s. I've just counted. I've got 42. I've just sold 5. I've still got 42 of these left. So, and I said at the end of one of them, just because with a lack of drawing doesn't mean say it's not a drawing, and that's in essence what that is. And you can see it, and this is what I'm doing now. I think if you think, oh, and that's why somebody said about there was a varied body of work. Every one of them, every face is different, and we should draw every face or respond to every face differently. Consequently, the idea of drawing, the actual what we normally think of as drawing, it shouldn't be part of our perception of what we're doing. So I'm going to make a drawing, and immediately, what's a drawing? It's all been like as I said about thinking about the elements of the face as a thing. So you think of a nose. I'm drawing the nose, and the problem is then your brain sort of says, "Oh, well, I know what a nose looks like. Let me give you a hand." And all of a sudden, you're drawing what you know and not what you see. That's the problem. And the drawing thing, I'm making a drawing, has the same effect. Because drawing it can't be like some of these. You would say there were more paintings than drawings because they're not. Well, first of all, they don't have outlines. This sort of thing. It doesn't have an outline in it, but it's probably more. Linear outlines that you colour in. But it's probably more like a painting than a drawing. And that's the thing. So because I don't consider them as a drawing, I'm not bound by this perception of what drawing is. It's just me responding to the what I see and trying to capture what I see. I work in charcoal all the time, well, just about all the time, but it's not my my firm decision, if you like. It's just a practical thing. And if I've got over 4,000 of these drawings, where would I keep all those paintings if they were canvas? It's just a practical thing, plus the cost and all the rest of it. So it's more the reason why, as I say, the working charcoal is a practical thing and not a specific preference. It's easier to achieve what I want to achieve doing this, and to many people, the perception of drawing is met by working in charcoal, I suppose, but I don't. As I said, I call them drawings, but in a way they're not. They're a long way from a drawing, in the traditional sense. People would think that this wasn't drawing. I mean, they call them sketches or studies. I mean, somebody said to me, "Nice studies," they said this morning. I'm not even sure what that means, but anyway, this is what is one of these. The people that have been trained kind of thing. They've got a vocabulary that they use to define both visual aesthetic and literal. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? And if that doesn't comply to what a drawing is, then I don't care. It is like these. They're just whatever you want to call them. But the other part of the drawing thing, as this friend of mine said about the drawing with accuracy, getting things in the right place and whatever. I'm not even bothered about that. I think that if you're responding to a face, to a subject, and whatever marks you make, and wherever the objects are, the elements of the face are, if they are a genuine response to that individual, to that person, that persona, whether they're 100% accurate or not doesn't really matter, does it? What matters is that you capture their persona. So I say it's I don't know. It's a different way of looking at this, and I try to explain to people, but it always sort of boils down to their comprehension of what drawing is. And I'm right or wrongly, think, well, if you don't get it, you don't get it. I'm not going to, you know, like let's say you can lead a horse to water, but a pencil's going to be lead. It's kind of like that. If you don't get it, then, you know, don't come at me saying, I wish I could do that, you know, and not even try, you know, not even attempt to understand, because that's the first thing. You could change your drawing or the quality of the way that you draw, if you want to just use a general term, by simply thinking about it differently. Instantly change. It's like you know, working differently, working upright and working alongside a subject, and it's all those sort of instant fixes can be the same in terms of having the right mindset. Everything changes, the way you make lines, the way, you know, the subjects you choose, all that kind of thing. But it's a big ask. I think it's a big ask to ask people to change their mindset when it comes to making portraits or drawing portrait or drawing full stop. You know, to change their mindset is just too much for some people. All their life they've been told that drawing is a linear thing, and it's the first part of a painting. You draw and then you paint. You know, you literally colour between the lines. That's all I've ever known. It's all I ever knew. Not now, right? But but now, I said this morning, the only thing that I've can put this down to is the 30-year break. I don't think that I didn't genuinely or intentionally try to rewire my thinking on this. It's just I didn't do it. I just didn't draw or paint. I helped the kids at school and all that kind of thing, but not intentionally. I'm gonna start drawing again. And I think it was my childish, immature attitude to this, and I just thought, oh no, if I can't do it my way, I'm not going to do it, kind of thing. Which is what happened. I mean, I was sucked into the old biddy land, and I was chocolate box painting and all that sort of thing, and you could only be in these groups if you exhibited, and the kind of work they exhibited were typical dock scenes, and the sort of seaside scenes, those kind of things. Just terrible stuff. I just didn't want to be there, and so I said at the time, I don't want to do this, and I'm going to just put it away until I'm old. And here I am. What triggered it for me was the cancer, though. But apart from that, I think would I have come back? I don't know. I don't know if I'd have come back or not. Which is an interesting thing, isn't it? I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for having cancer. Somebody said to me the other day, it's kind of a second chance. But I don't know. I didn't have a chance in the first place, so I'm not sure that it's a second chance. If I'd had a first chance, I'd have said, yeah, this is a second chance. But I didn't get. I only became, the archetypal type of artist that was just doing as I said, the scenes with people. It's kind of how I describe what I did. Scenes with people in them. So, but I don't know. It wasn't a chance, really. I didn't have anybody to tell me how to carry on. Somebody just asked me now if I had any training. I've not had any training at all. No lessons, no instruction, no nothing. Right? Which is. And then they say, oh, it's because you're naturally talented. No, it's not. It's because I've got something between my ears. And I worked all this out. And I'm not the kind of person that I've always done that. I mean, when I was working in computers, I taught myself to program. I taught myself to work with databases. I've always been like that. But this is more than anything else, is one of those things when really, being self-taught is a good thing. I think all artists are self-taught. Even if you went to college, I think you're self-taught. But the instruction thing I think he was referring to was how to understand form and shape and all that sort of nonsense. That's what he was referring to. But no, I'm not interested in that. I tell you, I downloaded a couple of courses, got sucked into the Domestica thing. Do this 99p, and then it turns out within months they're taking £100 out of you because you signed up for their premium do now by mistake, or for not reading serves me right for not reading the instructions. But so I downloaded one of those, and what a load of nonsense. I think I downloaded it to see if I could do a course, basically. And this guy then, they're like, I don't know, it was a 2-hour video about how great he is and his life in whatever part of the world. And yeah, I don't want to know, you know. It was just, and I just so that's my experience of tuition, if you like, online tuition, anyway. And I'm just not the kind of person that would take kindly to any kind of instruction which I didn't like. If I didn't like the work, you know, I've met great illustrators, right, and none of them taught, but they tell you everything they knew, which is I think that's really what it is, because they want to share what they do. You know, everyone will share that way they love, share their passion, which is why I join groups and things. It never works though, because the kind of people that join the groups aren't the people that I would benefit from anyway. So I generally find myself on my own. If it weren't for the kids, I don't think I'd come in contact with any other artist. You can see what I mean about the painting thing, though. You see, it's like I'm looking for shapes and tones and just manipulating things, and they're still drawing. I'm not drawing in outlines, which is one of the key things. The need to draw in outlines, to put lines around things. I think that's one of the things that makes it difficult. You're going to find the edges of the eye. You know what I mean? I think that's what makes it hard for most people who haven't drawn before, and they focus on that as a way of doing it. It's going to be really hard. It's just not. I don't think I think it's right, but it's just not a way of doing it that would suit anybody really. But most people, I mean, the people that do it well, you just have to look at what they do and look at their work. If there's a kind of repetitive consistency, you know that it's tens of thousands of years, or tens of thousands of hours. I'm going to say, did you know that artists live forever? But they do, don't they, really? But anyway, but you kind of know when you look at it, there's a few hours practice, and they're saying, well, all you need to do is this, you know. But most of those people that do that will tell you that there is a formula to it. There is a formula that you must follow in order to get the outcomes. Like me, I mean, that's what they say. You want to draw like me? You want to draw drawings like that? You want to? Have you seen those adverts? Would you like to draw like this? No, I wouldn't. But the trick I think the trick to any. I mean, I talked to the month and. Not for a long time, and I've had people worked in the studios with me. But I think the trick to all of it is to help people to unlock their potential. That's got to be the number one thing a tutor should do, is to help people to sort of unlock their potential, whatever that might be, because most people won't know, and even the tutor shouldn't know. They'd only just recognize something and help people to, as I say, unlock it. Anyway, as far as I say, the drawing's concerned, this idea that it is a known quantity, I think, is where it all falls down. It's a known thing. This is it. This is a drawing. This is what a drawing is, and there are many things. I mean, that's the first thing to know. For someone to say they know what a drawing is the problem. The second thing is for people to think that drawing is separate from everything else when it's not. Those are the two problems I've got. That's what I'm saying about drawing being everything. I think I actually did a video. I've done that many videos now. It's ridiculous. Somebody was I mean, I think I'm repeating myself as well with a lot of them, but I don't mind. I just, you know, a lot of these are more diarized things. You know, they're more of a vlog than a instructional video. So, which is hence the way I talk about things and ramble on things and with things. And, you know, it's not meant to be an instructional video. I don't think that it would work. Mainly because, as someone said to me, since I don't have a method, a structure to what I do, what's the point in me signing up for your courses? So, well, no point, because clearly that person hasn't got the right attitude to doing this, you know. But that's kind of why I don't, as you say, I don't do the step-by-step things, or do this, do that, do other. I don't do that either. I talk about the charcoal and the way it works because I want you to know why what I feel about the medium that I'm using. But I'm not saying, oh, you must do it like this and you must make your own and things, which is why I was doing the shopball stuff, just to show that it doesn't really make much difference to me. I'll use shopball things if I've got no choice, if I've got no charcoal. In fact, until I made some for Kevin, I didn't have any charcoal to use, so that's why he was using the shopball stuff. I think also, you know, it isn't drawing thing. It is not in traditional sense. It's when, you know, things like you're seeing it now where I'm leaving gaps around things, or I'm allowing things to go outside the lines and all that kind of stuff. All that is part of the non-drawing thing. You know, my attitude to drawing being everything but linear, and the fact that, you know, things can bleed outside the confines. There's no outline definition of things. I was thinking then about, somebody said to me the other day, if you've probably seen the comment, they said that I should shut up for a while and stop rambling on and come up for air, they said. But it's strange, you know. It's like, I mean, I obviously I'm not interested in what somebody else says, but it is interesting that these people that do comment like that are generally people that are more traditional in their understanding of doing this. You see, I think that with the right attitude, with this kind of attitude, anybody can draw, right? I really believe that, but people are not prepared to accept that. How can it be? How can they do that? Apparently, it takes years and all the rest of it. You need this knowledge and that knowledge, but no, you don't. You don't. It's what they say: if the mind is ready, it will be so. It's that, and if you don't get that, if your mind is never ready, because there are some people whose mind will be never ready for this, then they're going to be either struggling, because that's one of the other aspects to it as well, is that I'd never struggled doing this. I mean, it's not always been, you know, the outcomes have not always been absolutely fabulous, but then again, that's the whole point. It's not a case of I need it to fail so I know I'm learning. It's not that one, but it's the learning to accept however it turns out, and all the times when I make, you know, all the misfires, as I call them, the chances are that those are just simply occasions when I didn't connect properly to the subject. That's all it is. It's not a skill deficit or anything like that. It's literally because I didn't connect, and you know, my connection and my observation wasn't true enough or pure enough, or whatever you want to say. I mean, it tends to be when I'm not doing this. I don't know if did I do this one? I don't know if you've seen this one. I think I might have done that one as a demo. But if I'm doing something like that, for instance, when I'm not having to talk about it, I connect at a much deeper level. It's exhausting. It really is a draining thing, and which is why it's quite nice to do it like this, and why I probably ramble on as well. I do. Somebody said the other day about me talking and doing this, and I like to talk and do it because the talking is distracting my brain from getting involved. Back to this outlines of stuff and whatever. So I'm not trying to find the edge of something or define the lid or show the eyelashes. I'm just purely responding in a creative consciousness sort of stream. So I think that whilst ever you think of drawing as a drawing and it's something different or separate from the painting side, like a lesser something of lesser importance, I think it's always going to be a problem. It's just there is that ingrained within us, that thing of drawing to colour in, that outline stuff that we kind of grew up with the colouring books. Everything was linear, and then it was how well you coloured in that was which is exactly the same as most painters now. It's just how good they are at colouring in. So, which is why there's this focus on technical ability. You can't paint because you don't know how to use paint. It's that Degas thing. I think that's one of the things that spurred me on a little bit, because I'm quite against that. I know it's Degas and all that, but I don't mean to say I can't have an opinion. But in my opinion, I think not knowing, particularly, it's probably not the same if you're a brain surgeon, but in my opinion, if you're creative, then not knowing how to work with a medium isn't a problem. And I always think about what the Dalai Lama said about, you know, what you don't know is far more important than what you do, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm just about done. I'm going to clean it up, but I'm just about done. You see, there are all the I'm going to call them ancillary lines, but a lot of those lines that aren't doing anything other than creating some kind of interference, I think, create it's an energy thing. You know, in the early stages when I'm scribbling this out and all the energy is entering the drawing, I think that's what these lines represent, and that's a big problem with you know, when it gets like this, all those energy lines that were in, say, that one, because this one, if you watch the video on that one, you see how it started, but all the energy lines that are in that one are now gone. You know, it's now become very representative and very realistic, but all the energy is in that, you know, and the trick is to keep that energy right through into that. It's not easy to do that, because you inevitably end up, you know, making it accurate or blended or whatever you want to call it. You'll be doing those things to make it because it's just I get sucked into it. I don't really consciously do it. If you saw the 40-page one that I did, or those folders, there's a couple in there where they're really quite painted. It's like a painting, and that was out of my control. A bit like that woman yesterday. It was a bit out of my control, and it is what it is. You know, there is a point at this where it's not a considered drawing. There's a point at this where you're not in control of your creative expression, your response. You're just letting it happen, which is again why I like to talk, because it stops my brain from getting involved in doing this, and the less my brain's involved in it, the better, because I'm not going to be thinking about it too much. I'm just going to respond. So yeah, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna stop at this, because I'm gonna go back to the one from earlier, just to tighten things up and whatever. I think I've got what I needed to do. So I'm wary that, as I just said, if I'm not careful, I'll start to become more focused on the doing part of it, you know, the blending, whatever. It needs the errors in a way, you know, the bit that doesn't look right where it is, and it needs those, as I say, the sparkle that happens when I'm first doing it. I need to keep those. So anyway, yeah. Am I looking at? I think that's all right. As I'm looking at it and looking whether or not I've caught that, I think that's fine. It's a little bit shiny. You know, the thing about the balance of tones, you know, this thing here, see how shiny his nose is, which is always a danger with the blending kind of stuff. If you're not careful, it does start to look shiny. But other than that, I think it's fine. I think the woman I've just shown you, she went through a shiny stage. You know, some people talk about the ugly stage. With charcoal, I end up, or in graphite, I suppose, as well. I'll end up with the shiny stage when the highlights are too extreme. You know, but that's one of the dangers of highlights. Highlights can be very seductive. You know, you can end up where you're using white chalk and all that malarkey, and making the thing look like it's wrapped in cling film or cooking film, as you say in the States, and that's never a good thing. It just looks so unnatural. These unnatural highlights. Right. Yeah, I'm done. Right, I shall love you and leave you, and what time is it? I won't be doing another one. We'll finish these off and stick them on the socials, so I'll catch you there.